Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 24. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us for this Friday show, Dave. As we get started for Week 2, the Giants and Washington football team had a very NFC East type of game last night. Washington winning on a game-winning field goal, and the Steelers getting ready to play the Las Vegas Raiders in their home opener this weekend. Should be a fun one.
Absolutely, and boy, the Giants did a great job of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Did they not? Boy, Scary Terry, we had our eyes on that kid right out this shoot, dating back to I think the Senior Bowl that year. A guy that wasn't used a lot in the passing game or not enough, I should say, at Ohio State there, and a guy that I think kind of flew under the radar because of the volume that he got in college. But you could see, I remember getting some of that practice tape from the Senior Bowl on him, and that the route running ability and the footwork on him. You had a feeling he was going to be kind of special there, and he absolutely is. What a great route runner he is, and going to catch a lot of passes once again this season.
Absolutely. All right, Dave, let's jump into some Steelers talk here. The injury report came out on Thursday. Steelers are in much better shape than the Raiders are, but we'll still go ahead and walk through things right now. Not practicing on Thursday, and we'll see what the Friday report ultimately says, is Carlos Davis, who went backwards from a limited participant on Wednesday with a knee to a DNP on Thursday, and Eric Ebron popped up yesterday, did not practice due to a hamstring injury. Robert Spillane back in full after injuring his shin in pregame warmups last Sunday. A late scratch in that one, limited on Wednesday, full on Thursday. So Davis and Ebron, the two big names to watch today.
Yeah, absolutely, and I hate to, I hate to kind of discount, a little bit the Eric Ebron injury there, but man, with what you saw out of Freiermuth, at least in had that long catch over the middle there. When's the last time that we've seen a tight end get hit right down the middle of the field, more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage on a curl route?
Yeah.
That was good to see in and of itself, and then obviously the blocking and if people missed the video that you did on Pat Freiermuth the other day, you really are missing something good in there, because there was some good and a little bit of bad, I thought, in his tape, but overall you come away with his play just overall fantastic in that game. So if you for some reason don't have Eric Ebron Sunday against the Raiders, and we'll probably get a better idea a couple hours from now when the final injury report is. I would guess he's probably going to be questionable somewhere along those lines. We'll see. But I guess what I'm trying to get to here is probably not a huge loss if you don't have Eric Ebron this week against the Raiders.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world for sure. Freiermuth played well, but I think they like the rotation there. Those guys were basically splitting snaps, and certainly for still a young guy like Freiermuth, you don't want to necessarily put too much on his plate from an assignment, conditioning, snap count kind of a standpoint, but it's manageable if Ebron cannot go. What's less manageable right now is what's happening out there in Las Vegas with all the injuries they're having. They lost Denzel Good to a torn ACL. They lost Gerald McCoy to a knee injury that's going to end his season. They got another guard, Richie Incognito, who did not practice with a calf injury. Josh Jacobs, their back speed up. They don't have Marcus Mariota, who's going to be their backup quarterback, a sub-package kind of guy. Let me catch my breath here. So they have a lot of guys missing. So we'll see what today's report is, but they're going to be without some key guys, especially along the offensive line.
Boy, what a mess they have coming out of that game with the Ravens. They were kind of beat up a little bit, I think, even heading into that thing. And yeah, it doesn't sound like Richie Incognito is going to return, make a debut from that calf injury. They lost Denzel Good for the season last week there. So not only one one basically backup guard, but you're going to have two of them in there against the Steelers. Boy, Cameron Hayward and Tyson Alualu, and really anybody else lines up in there got to be licking their lips a little bit. Josh Jacobs came in and out of that game the other night against the Ravens, and it sounds like that's something that's going to bother him most of the season there. I would suspect he probably suits up and tries to go, but he's definitely not 100%. Nick Kwiatkowski, going to be interesting to see what happens with him dealing with a concussion. And one of the things about that Marcus Mariota injury is, he's a backup quarterback, but it certainly looked right out of the chute, or at least I think Gruden even admitted to this after the game that the plan was to use Marcus Mariota more in that game against the Ravens, and we saw what happened on the one time he was used, busted for an explosive play there. Just adds something else to have to get kind of get ready for there, and with him suffering that injury, that quadricep injury, unless the Raiders are playing some sort of shenanigans here, I think you basically expect him to be ruled out, and then that's one element of their offense that they probably counted on having, at least in the first quarter of the season there, to kind of sneak up on people and not having. So and they put two more on IR, or Gerald McCoy, as we mentioned, Good already went on IR there, and even they had a new guy show up on the injury report. Darius Philon, defensive tackle, was an addition yesterday. So this is a beat-up bunch. Now, everybody that was probably limited or above probably going to suit up against the Steelers, and they should have Cleveland Farrell back, who we talked about on Wednesday was a scratch against the Ravens there. But short week, and a short week that got shorter because of overtime and all these injuries, and of course having to make the travel out to Pittsburgh. A wounded animal, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, and we'll touch on it more when we talk about the Raiders specifically a little bit later in the show, but attacking that offensive line, they got a decent left tackle in Colton Miller. I think everyone else is a question mark in terms of the injuries. They got a young guy at center, Andre James. They got a rookie in Alex Leatherwood, who I like coming out of Alabama, but certainly is still a rookie playing a second NFL regular season game. So hopefully this Steelers offensive line, defensive line, which dominated a much better and pretty good Bills offensive line last week, can do the same, if not more, against Derek Carr and company this week.
Absolutely. And look, hats off to the Raiders for you down 14-0 to the Ravens, right? That a lot of moxie, and Derek Carr is as gutsy as they come there. So props to them for being able to stay in that game and getting a couple of key turnovers when they needed it. And, even they attempted to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in that one, but the Ravens let them snatch it right back.
For sure. All right, Dave, let's talk about Steelers coaches here. Matt Canada, Keith Butler spoke to the media yesterday, but I just got to start by shouting out, I wouldn't say friend of the show, but a good guy, Pat McAfee, who had Mike Tomlin on his show yesterday, and Tomlin doesn't do a lot of other, non-traditional media or, going on shows and things like that, but him and McAfee go way back, and just a really cool interview. Nice to see Tomlin in that environment, kind of loose, laughing, joking, and you just had some really good questions from McAfee and AJ Hawk and all those guys there. And so I don't know if there was one particular story that's relevant for today, but there were still some really good stories overall told by Tomlin.
Is Pat McAfee real media?
Probably not. He's not the traditional legacy media, which I say is a great thing. I think it's working out pretty well for him.
I think that's what real media could learn a lesson from. Be honest with you, real kind of laid back, not seemingly agenda driven. I bet the Pittsburgh media got their feelings hurt bad, or do every time Tomlin shows up on one of those shows like that, because we obviously see Mike Tomlin occasionally even on, I think, First Take or something like that. And look, Can he saturate if he does that too much? Absolutely, I think so. But I think Tomlin does a great job of kind of picking his shots on some of these shows to go on. And you're right. Whenever he goes on these NFL networks or the or Pat McAfee or First Take, he really does seem more relaxed and all. And I find that funny, because I bet the local media just besides himself every time he goes on one of those shows.
Yeah, my favorite story, which again isn't relevant for Sunday, but and this had been told a bit during the Hall of Fame game, that Bill Cowher, whenever he stepped down and Tomlin became the next head coach to replace him, that Cowher left an icy light sitting in the fridge, and Tomlin confirmed it's actually 2 icy lights still sitting there in the fridge, and Tomlin will leave it for the next head coach whenever that may be.
Absolutely, great story, and plans on past. He says I didn't realize it'd be 15 years later, but definitely plans on. And he says not sure you want to probably, or maybe it was McAfee said probably not sure you're going to want to drink those whoever passes them on to. But it was a great story, and he had a couple good stories in there. It's definitely worth going to YouTube, and I think they even have that interview now kind of separated out there, so it probably shouldn't be hard to find, and I think you have it linked on Steelers Depot in the article as well too. So really a good interview, about I don't know 17, 18 minutes. Pat McAfee with Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. All right, Dave, let's talk about the Steelers coordinators and what they said about this week in previewing the Raiders game. Keith Butler, Matt Canada speaking yesterday. Who do you want to start with here? Keith Butler with obviously glowing things to say about Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, it seemed like it seemed like pretty much everything, all Minkah Fitzpatrick quite a bit asked in that interview there with Keith Butler, talking about how moving him down in the box, and a lot of Troy Polamalu's name was mentioned quite a bit during the interview as well too. Hey, kudos to the Steelers on this, and kudos to Minkah Fitzpatrick for playing a very nice possum for quite a while as well too. Because remember, a couple times that Minkah's been interviewed saying not change a thing, it ain't broke, don't fix it and all. And lo and behold, you get into week 1 and it's almost, instead of where's Waldo, where's Minkah? And I think that played a role. I don't want to say how much, but or to what degree, a role in Josh Allen probably not having his best of games, and maybe being a little bit confused at who was where at times in that game. And Butler was asked, does Minkah have kind of the free reign that Troy Polamalu did, and he kind of squashed that. But he also said that they're not opposed to moving Minkah around, and kudos to him, and I think that's the right way to use him, and it could wind up Minkah having his best season to date because of it. And I know there was a lot of chatter about when Minkah came over from the Dolphins, and the Dolphins supposedly wanting to kind of use him in I guess a less traditional tied to the post free safety role, and how Minkah, the narrative was that Minkah wasn't a big fan of that, wanted to kind of stay deep there. So I don't know what's truth and what's a lie, but the way they used him, will we see that week in, week out? Probably not to that degree, but we'll probably definitely continue to see Minkah moved around more than we have in any of the couple previous seasons, and I think that's great. I think it could end up with Minkah just having maybe a couple more picks and a couple more game kind of changing plays, like the one that he definitely had on that 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 3 stop that set up the big 4th and 1 stop by Cameron Sutton in that game on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously you can play Minkah at free safety and center field and just have him take away the deep middle, and that would be all well and good, but that's not going to allow him to create the impact splash plays of pass deflections and interceptions. And you don't want quarterbacks to know where 39 is at. You want to force them to identify where he's at and to change up where he's going to be. So, obviously last year he didn't play the free safety 90% of the time. He was rotating down. They were spinning Sutton and Hilton and guys like that. And so they did some of those similar things this week, or against the Bills. So I don't want to say some of this is brand new, but he definitely did play in the slot more. They definitely kind of moved him around a bit more, and did a couple more different things rotational wise than what they have done in the past with some of these new faces. And so that was interesting. So absolutely, the more that you can spin this guy down, have him play closer to the action, closer to those crossing routes, and make impact plays on the football, and change the quarterback's eyes and his reads and take away portions of the field, that's all the better. And that's something this team will probably be required to do this week against the Raiders, when you're talking about taking away a guy like Darren Waller, and how do you combat some of those top weapons that the Raiders have. Being able to utilize Minka and move him around and take advantage of the versatility that he has and the secondary has, I think will be really crucial in this one.
Absolutely. They tried to get Keith Butler to spill the game plan, and he especially when it came to Waller, and the state secret, I think, stayed safe. He says, we're going to do a lot of things against Waller. I'm not going to tell you what we're doing. We've got some versatile guys in the back end, and we're going to use them. Hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, they played, 17 defenders, I think 10 plus snaps, and 16 of them, or 17 5 plus and 16 10 plus, I think was the number there. And they played 7 DBs, at least 10 plus snaps. And so I think part of that is them trying to figure out what they have in these guys, what they have in a Trey Norwood, what they have in a Arthur Millette and things like that, a James Pierre. But some of that is utilizing some of the depth that you do have and ability to create different looks and different disguises and coverages. And to me, that's really the key to playing good defense in today's NFL. If you're static and you just show the one thing over and over, offenses are going to combat that. They're going to figure it out. They're just too good, too skilled, too detailed. But being able to disguise and mix things up is really important for today's NFL.
Yeah, and I would expect we're going to continue to see that early season, early rotation again on Sunday at Heinz Field. And look, I mean, I absolutely love the rotation at outside linebacker, but I'm obviously not saying you need to pull T.J. Watt off the field for 20 snaps a game, but if you can get him a snap or two off here and snap off here, and look, we even have seen how many times we're going to see all three of those guys on the field. Especially with Stephon Tuitt going to be out a couple more weeks there. Melvin Ingram has shown that he's more than comfortable from rushing from any spot on the field. The same with T.J. Watt. Probably a little lesser degree with Alex Highsmith, but that's fine. There. So not only that, but we have a lot more to learn, I think, about guys like Trey Norwood and obviously Arthur Millette as well too. And they got a guy in a practice squad that's going to be interesting to we were kind of led to believe that there was a good chance that a guy like Carl Joseph would have been promoted last week. In fact, I think Jerry Dulac said specifically that was the plan. Well, that didn't happen, and to be honest with you, there's no real sign or no real. I mean, it could happen, but is there any reason right now to elevate Carl Joseph on Saturday as you see it right now?
I mean, there's no compelling reason in terms of an injury or something like that. I mean, outside of like the revenge game maybe aspect of it, but that's not important to the Steelers right now. They did protect Joseph this week, and they didn't protect him last week. So I don't know if that's a sign or a clue or whatever, but that's at least a little notable.
It was. And look, one thing that look, teams change stuff when players leave and all, but there ought to be a little inkling of information they should be able to get from Carl Joseph on that Raiders defense, right?
Yeah, I mean, he just left like 3 weeks ago. They just cut him, so I mean, I'm sure they haven't changed things that dramatically. So yeah, I mean, it's not they've played Gus Bradley before, and it's not going to be a goldmine of information, but I'm sure it can't hurt.
Right. I mean, you definitely sit him down at the table, put a bright light on him, I think.
Doing a good cop. Who's good cop, bad cop here? Is a Tomlin Butler dynamic? Tomlin's good cop.
Butler's at Inspector Columbo. He's the Columbo of it.
Okay.
Butler's,
I barely get that reference.
Yeah. You'd have to you'd have to be older and watch some of that though. But let's see, who would be the I would envision Jerry Olszewski kind of being the good cop, right?
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
Kind of, the ball-headed kind of good cop. That kind of matches there. Who would be the bad cop?
Yeah, I don't know.
Dunbar looked like he could be a good bad cop.
Yeah, he might rough you up a little bit.
And Terrell Austin.
John Mitchell. John
Mitchell. Yeah. That's the. Yeah, I can envision John Mitchell with like a toothpick in his mouth and really
turns the cameras off.
Yeah,
me and you.
third degree in it. There. That's funny to think about. All right.
Anyway.
But one other thing we didn't talk about with the injuries there, if Carlos Davis winds up not being able to go, is that enough to get Loudermilk dressed, or might we see Henry Mondeau get elevated and help on special teams?
That's a good question. I would kind of lean towards Mondeau, just kind of the more versatile option. But obviously, Loudermilk made it over Mondeau. I don't know if that was a concern about Loudermilk getting claimed or something like that. I mean, that certainly may have been. So, yeah, I mean, let's just start with Davis and see what his status is and kind of go from there. But it would not shock me if Mondeau got elevated and got a hat.
That's the way I'm kind of leaning. And apologies to the Louder. It's just you don't want to kind of rush these guys too far along. The Steelers usually don't, unless if they can not do it, especially when it comes to special team stuff. And if you did dress Loudermilk, you'd probably lean toward not playing him, whereas at least Henry Mondeau has played some snaps in that defense.
Did Davis play on special teams Sunday? I do not know.
I thought he did.
Was he on the unit? I'm going to check the Football Outsiders here and see what their numbers are. Let's see. Carlos Davis snaps. Am I seeing anything? No snaps for Carlos Davis on special teams.
Let me look and see what the game book has. I thought I saw him.
At least that's what Football Outsiders says. Because if he was playing snaps, and you might think, okay, let's replace Mondeau for his role on pump block team or kick coverage team or whatever. But according to Football Outsiders, at least 0 snaps for Davis on special teams.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Okay. 17 defense is what I see, and 0 special teams. So I don't know. Maybe you could dress Loudermilk then.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's just start. Will Davis play? He could be. Highsmith last week went limited DNP then full on Friday. So let's see if Davis follows a similar track or a different one.
All right. Where were we talking about Keith Butler? I don't think there wasn't anything hugely compelling. I don't think that he said otherwise. Said he studies Alex Highsmith studies the cadence of. You're one that's been talking about Alex Highsmith's get off. Dating back to the offseason, right?
Yeah, I said in camp, so much of his game has improved. Every aspect of his game has improved. But the number one area of his game that has taken that biggest jump was his get-off, his explosion key in the football. And I think Steeler fans saw that, and the Bills' offensive tackle, Steven Dawkins, sure saw that on Sunday.
What do you think about the slowed-down clip of the offsides that I pulled?
Yeah, man, it looks good to me.
It looks good to me too.
He switched his feet around his stance, and I don't know if that kind of threw the ref off. But according to the Next Gen Stats, the second quickest get off of any edge rusher in Week 1, only behind Joey Bosa. So it sure felt like that when you watched the tape.
I mean, unless a swinging arm went over or something, I think you're right. I think that kind of the shifting of and that's kind of, be honest with you, that's a false step on his part. If you want to be technical about it, you do kind of hate to see that, because I guess it's technically a false step if you want to gig him on that. But you still.
If he was a false step and have that crazy get off, then false step all day, my friend.
I know, that's why I'm apologetic for saying that. But I mean, you get where I'm coming from. I mean, and I think that kind of that false step, if you will, that shift, if you will, is what maybe drew the flag.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but it was really close. And beyond that snap, just get putting that past. His get off overall was fantastic, and he's keying the ball really well. So good for him.
Once again, if he has better shoes in that game, he probably is the one with the 2 sacks. Because they're especially on one of those with him turning the corner there. I thought for sure he's going to get home on. All right, Keith Butler. Let's see what else. Wrapping up Keith Butler here. Yeah. Nothing else. I mean, a lot of Minka questions.
And I get, he played in the slot more, but it wasn't like radically different. It wasn't like he's never spun down before or played a robber or played a hook zone. They did that a lot last season, so he's not just the deep free safety. So I think there is a little too much attention paid to that, because this is not brand new for Minka.
Right. All right. Matt Canada.
Yeah, just talked about, anytime this run game's not successful, he's going to be asked about it. And he certainly was earlier this week, and just said the run game has to get better, and that starts, schematically and execution-wise and those kinds of things. So I think it'll be a little easier, and this is my speculation, not his words, but easier sledding against this Raiders defense than it will be what Buffalo brought to the table last week.
Yeah, and talked about staying aggressive at the end of the game because they kind of, I guess because of stacking the box a little bit there, and Buffalo did kind of do it. And I think you're going to continue to see that moving forward here until Ben starts maybe making them pay a little bit earlier in games, or until you're able to show that you can run against maybe the extra guy in the box kind of situation there. This setup this week, I think, sets up a little bit better for the Steelers running game than it did last week against the Bills, especially with them kind of being banged up on top of it there. But Canada's going to be another one that's not going to give you a lot of state secrets or much to talk about, I don't think, on a week-to-week basis.
No. What'd you think about his comments and just the overall thought of Najee Harris playing 100% of the snaps? Canada said he was not concerned about that. I know we did touch on this earlier in the week, but I'm not concerned about it. I know Dr. Mel had written a very good article, and I certainly understood her points about the worries of overworking Najee Harris. But I'm not too super concerned about it.
Well, I mean, how many of those times are you? It comes down to touches within those snaps, I think, too.
Right. That's a good point.
And he only had the 16 rushes, and he had 3 targets. That's 19. What did he have? Like 3 pass pros in there, maybe.
Yeah. Only had 1 reception, so only touched the ball 17 times. So I mean, yeah, I get that. I mean, he's not going to play 100% of the snaps, every single game, and probably not this game either. But as you said, with the offense kind of being haphazard and they weren't stringing together super long drives consistently and things like that. I mean, they only had 55, 60 snaps total, so it wasn't like they had the 85 that Buffalo had. Right,
and we broke down the possessions in the podcast the other day about, let's see, they went 5, 3, 6, 3, 4, and 1, and the one at the end obviously was a kneel down, right? There to end the first half, so don't even count that one. So 13 and 8, 21 snaps. I mean, a guy can't play 21 snaps in the first half. I guess the big issue, and how many touches did he have in the second half versus the amount of snaps that he played?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Because he touched the ball probably more, or was targeted more in the first half than he was in the second half, right?
I'd have to look at the numbers. I'm not sure. That sounds about right, but I couldn't tell you.
I got my own self curious there.
I mean, if you can go back and find, because you always post the first half numbers in your Twitter timeline. That's kind of going way back.
He had 7 carries in the first half, and he had 1 target.
Okay, so he had 9 carries and 2 targets in the second half then.
All right.
I mean, it's about the same split. It's a little bit more, but they also ran more plays in the second half.
Right.
So kind of washed
I don't think this is something that we're going to be talking about. Boy, can you believe Najee Harris played 100% of the snaps? Is it going to happen at times throughout the season? I think so. I mean, it could be anywhere, I think, this week from 80 to probably 95%, depending on how many offensive snaps, the offense has to run there. I think the more interesting question this week is, assuming he doesn't play all the snaps, is who's the next one on the field.
Right.
I think that's I would think that is going to be Benny Snell. I don't know for sure, but I would think that's going to be the case there. And if you get into a short yardage situation, maybe it's Kalen Ballage or something like that. But I'm not, week 1, I'm not overly worried. This guy played basically an NFL season at Alabama with all the games that they're used to playing, and we've heard Mike Tomlin say constantly this guy is in great physical condition. So if we want to get 3 games into this and he's playing every snap, then let's revisit this, I guess.
Yeah. But I think fans should expect him to play at least around 80% plus. Like, he's going to be one of the highest snap count share running backs in football, which is the whole point of drafting it. And the drop off between Harris to Snell or Ballage, whoever next man up is great, is pronounced. And so I want Harris out there as much as, if he needs a break, he needs a break. I mean, certainly you're not going to be reckless about it, but if he can handle it, then I'm letting him handle it.
Right. Roethlisberger, 40-something shotgun snaps Canada was asked about, and He says, we're not gauging it that way. It's based about how the game goes, yada, yada. Hey, here's the thing. We saw Roethlisberger a lot more under center in this game, right? We saw some play action in this game as well, too. So there, other than some throws that Ben made and the offensive line, I still stand by the fact that it's a compliment to say that the offensive line wasn't awful against the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, it's damning with faint praise. I mean, because the bar has been set pretty low. So I think, as we talked about Wednesday, that it was a good first step. There wasn't the disaster that certainly could have happened in that first game at Buffalo against a really good defense, really good front overall. But the standard is going to need to be raised starting Sunday and throughout the rest of the season, because if they play like that the rest of the season, then that's not going to be good enough. So it was a good start relative to expectations, but it certainly cannot be the standard for this offensive line.
Right. And they have to run, look, they did what they had to do. They got out of Buffalo with a win. Praise Jesus. Good job. I mean, you did everything that most of us didn't think they were going to be able to do from a team standpoint to get out of there with the win. Ben's got to play better than he played against the Bills, period.
Absolutely. I mean, he played well at the end. That last drive was impressive, but everything before that was rough.
Absolutely. So, and the running game also needs to get better, and plain and simple.
Yeah, since I think it's week 7 of last season, this team has one game of rushing 100-plus yards. That was Jacksonville, I believe, week 11 or week 12 last season. Every other team in the NFL since week 7 of last year has at least 3 games where they ran for 100-plus yards. And so you want to see some triple digits in the Steelers column sooner than later.
Absolutely. And I think they got a good chance of maybe doing that this week.
Yeah, I hope so. So anything else here from Butler or Canada? Nothing too notable from those guys. Anyone else speak yesterday that's worth talking about?
Cameron Hayward spoke, and Joe Hayden spoke. I mean, was there anything huge that came out of that overall?
Well, Hayward said he considers himself to be the best defensive lineman in the NFL. I know that ruffled some feathers for the Aaron Donald fans. And listen, who do I think is the best defensive lineman in football? I think it's Aaron Donald. But who do I think is number 2? I think you could certainly argue Cam Hayward, and Hayward's a top 2, top 3 guy, and a player who should be the most confident guy of anyone. And so I have no problem with him saying that. I think he's earned the right to have that opinion. And although Donald, I think, is better, I mean, Hayward is just phenomenal and right up there with him.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, that was you'd be hard pressed. Yeah, I think the Colts game a couple. Was it last year? No, it was
2 years ago against Quentin Nelson. Welcome into the NFL. Yeah.
Right. Hayward played out of his mind the other day against the Bills. So and then going into this game, as we kind of already previewed, talking about the Raiders and even their center. We talked about how they're going to have a couple of guards. What's their center's name? The Raiders center,
Andre James.
Yeah, Andre James. Not only is he banged up, I mean, he's not. He's probably one of the weaker links on that. He might be the weakest link on that offensive line. When they're fully healthy there. Now, we'll see what they have to do at tackle and all this week. Right tackle at right guard, I think there. Mm-hmm. But this is another tasty matchup for a guy like Hayward this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with the Raiders. They had Rodney Hudson, really great center, super athletic, been in the league for a long time, great player, and they trade him away, and then they give this contract extension to Andre James, who I think had started like 1 or 2 career games, and just kind of a strange move there from the Raiders. And then I don't think he looked that good last week. He had that terrible snap that knocked him out of field goal range, some miscommunication there on the snap count in a home game, nonetheless. So. Yeah, I think that just interior offensive line in general is worth attacking.
And especially if they can get them to be one-dimensional, talking about the Raiders' offense. And with Jacobs, now I guess the backup Kenyon Drake and all, I guess he got over that hamstring issue pretty quick there, because I haven't seen him on the injury report there. So probably going to see a pretty good dose of Drake, I would think, in this game on Sunday at Heinz Field there. But, going back to what Cam Hayward had to say, you can tell he has a little bit of axe to grind a little bit when people keep calling him old, but he's not playing like an old man, that's for sure.
No, he's playing just out of his mind. And yeah, I think what he did against the Bills Sunday was one of his best games ever. I think up there with that Colts game you referenced, and he's always taken those Bengals guards behind the woodshed a couple times throughout his career as well. So dude gets better with age. And I don't know how he does it, but I'm glad he's doing it.
All right. Anything else maybe from Joe Hayden? Joe Hayden say anything interesting?
I'm trying to even find what he said in the first place. I'm trying to find what we had written about that. But I think it was a lot about Minka as well and just being impressed by him. So probably not a whole lot there.
All right. Where to now? What about the Ravens? What a mess going on over there right now.
Yeah, they lost another corner, I think, for months. I'm not sure what the injury is in terms of the length of it, but yeah, they are as beat up as any team right now.
Ronnie Stanley going to be sidelined now for it looks like for the foreseeable future there. It might be a blessing in disguise a little bit to some degree because I think Alejandro Villanueva is going to switch over to left tackle, and he is a much better left tackle than he is a right tackle. Than based on one set of game tape there, it looked like that guy was a fish out of water, and you kind of knew that would kind of be the case. I think with Alejandro Villanueva, I mean, it just looked like they you give somebody that's right-handed, give them a pen and expect them to write a book or something with the left hand. It looked that awkward for him. Now, obviously, going against a good pass rusher and Max Crosby didn't help things out there, though. But that might be a tiny blessing in disguise, is that Alejandro Villanueva has to probably go back over to the left tackle's more natural position there. But what a mess. They lost the guard over there. They've obviously had the running back issues. What does it say when Freeman is the one that gets promoted off the practice squad over Le'Veon Bell? What does that mean what does that say for Le'Veon Bell? Lamar Jackson comes out to shoot once again. What has been one of the knocks on Lamar Jackson overall since he's come into the NFL?
Yeah, just overall, I guess, accuracy and consistency as a thrower.
And holding on to the football, right?
Oh, yeah. How many times did he fumble? I mean, he had the one in overtime.
Twice, right?
Twice.
Yeah.
They fumbled 4 times in that game, so yeah, as a team.
Right. So if you can get to him, the ball security issues starting to they don't have a long-term deal with him, and this is something we've talked about before, and I think I'm on record as saying do you give him that deal right now, Alex?
Well, I know they're going to, because there's no way they're not, even though some of the ups and downs. I mean, there's no way you just let that guy walk. I don't think you could leave that down as a franchise potentially. Well,
then you better be careful with the guaranteed money then,
Yeah. But I get what you're saying, but it just we both know they're going to pay him.
I know, but I hate to be in that position, man.
Right. Anyway, let's go back to the Raiders here. Do you want to talk about anything else from Steelers? Or you want to start focusing on what the Raiders are going to bring to the table this weekend?
What's the inactive list going to look like? Witherspoon again, Coward, probably Buddy. Poor Buddy. Was Buddy to blame for that almost blocked punt?
It was hard to tell because you could put it on Buddy, you could put it on Jameer Jones. Their Bills ran a little twist in game there, and it didn't get picked up. So I think it's just a combination of having 2 new guys there with Buddy and Jameer, and it not getting communicated properly.
All right, so we think Witherspoon going to be inactive. We think Coward's going to be inactive. We think Buddy's, if Spillane can suit up, then Buddy's going to be inactive. Obviously, Haskins is going to be inactive. And then I guess it depends on what's going to happen with a guy like Carlos Davis and Eric Ebron on the injury report when it comes to those. So it shouldn't be overly hard to. We'll see what the what elevations maybe transpire on Saturday there, but it shouldn't be hard to pick out the inactive list. I guess the only question is will there be 5 or 6 this week there? Any surprises on the protection list this week?
No. Who was it? It was Mondo, Joseph Samuels, and Rader, I believe.
Yes.
So it was the same as last week. Besides, Cody White was unprotected this week to in order to protect Carl Joseph.
That would be correct. You would be correct, sir.
All right, so no surprises there. We'll see if those guys get elevated. We'll watch on Joseph. We'll watch on Mondo. Mondo's elevation status probably be tied to what happens to Carlos Davis on the injury report today.
I would think so. I like that part of the minutia. I love it. I live for that part of the minutia.
Football's back. Dave and Alex talking about inactives and elevations.
Oh, by the way, Nevada, Kansas State midday on Saturday.
All right, your anniversary Saturday, Dave. You're leaving your wife for Carson.
I think, yeah, my wife I already told her that game's early afternoon. So then Mary, she wanted me to let you know, 28 years official, and add in another 7 been together. We lived in sin for like 6.5 to 7 years before that. So she wants full credit for the 35 years. She says she has done her time.
There's an extra layer of heaven. I think she gets to qualify to go.
Oh, without a doubt, because she's been married to like 6 different people during that time. So,
and that they're all you for clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, right. What a besmirch.
Well, you can kind of semi-relate, right? I mean, maybe.
I can?
Yeah. Just in the time of knowing me, right?
We do feel like an old married couple, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, you probably woken up and said, who is that guy this morning before? But anyway.
I have the divorce papers on the table. It's just ready to be signed.
I'm kidding. All right. So shout out to my wife for 28 years tomorrow.
And Carson Strong also, apparently.
Carson Strong, yeah.
Let's talk about the Raiders here. Put up 33 points in their overtime victory against the Ravens Monday night. And I think when you think about the Raiders offense and the difficulties and who you got to stop, it starts with number 83, Darren Waller, that freak tight end, former receiver, actually in Baltimore, got drafted by the Ravens and turned his career around, turned his life around, and is now, to me, maybe the most dynamic threat at tight end in football, even above the likes of George Kittle and Travis Kelce and all those guys. Waller is just going to be a handful for the Steelers defense.
Yeah, and it's going to take different variations from snap to snap to down distance on how you deal with him too. And they are just, they are going to do what they do with him, and that's move him around. That makes him even harder to defend, I think, more so maybe than even a guy like Diggs, who they Buffalo moved around quite a bit as well too. You just have to be cognizant of where he's at and how you want to treat him in situations. You obviously don't want one-on-one situations with a linebacker with him, and you don't want Edmonds to have to draw him in one-on-one situations. I think you're just going to see a lot of bracket kind of stuff with him overall. If he lines up outside, you could man him up in those kind of situations. But I mean, he is like a wide receiver though, and he can stack you and beat you over the top and against cover 3, he can cover 3 beat you. He can cover 2 beat you down the seam as well too. So this is kind of a repeat of what we saw. I think game plan wise against the Buffalo Bills in week 1 is he's going to get his catches. They're going to target him in this game. He's going to have 8, 9, 10, 11 catches in this game. Can you just limit that to 69 to 89 yards and not let him stand in the end zone with one, right? And don't let him 38-yard you. If is that an adjective or a verb?
I don't know. You're conjugating a lot over there. No, the point's well taken, and I agree. It's a similar philosophy of Diggs of no touchdowns and no hyper explosive plays, game changing type plays. If you do that, I think it's a win against a guy like that. But in some sense, it's harder to deal with Waller because, as you said, he can line up everywhere. With a receiver on the outside, you kind of know where he's going to line up a little bit more. You can use sideline leverage, things like that. Waller's going to be number 3. He'll play backside X, so he'll be in a bunch, and they'll use someone else as the point guy to allow Waller to get a free release. They take advantage of man coverage. If you play outside leverage and man, he's going to run a crosser and a bending route and beat you that way. They scheme him up well with levels concepts and nub routes on the backside, so it allows Waller to bend across and find open grass. And so trying to just deal with him in terms of just identifying and defending him in terms of defending everything, because there is not just one route that he wins on. He wins on absolutely everything. So I think, to your point, bracketing is going to be the smart play. I think you probably roll a lot of Minka on him to put your best coverage guy on their top receiving threat. But you're right. It is a multi-man job. It's a multi-scheme job. You can't do just one thing and expect to stop a really dynamic guy and a weapon like Darren Waller.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have to, the times, and there'll be a lot of them where Minka's not singled up on him, in there. Minka's definitely going to have to help, or Edmonds, make sure that you bracket the top of him there. You're probably not going to want to play, obviously, a lot of zone, because he'll just run right through the zones on you and kill you that way. You're going to have to set yourself up to have other guys beat you. And Hunter Renfrow is a guy that, I think you could see get a lot of targets in this game, especially the way I think that they're going to treat Waller in this game here. And you're going to have Renfrow probably line up in some unique situations against some guys that, he might can run away from there. So, but you have to let guys like Ruggs and Edwards and Renfrow be the guys that kill you. Oh, by the way, they got Steeler killer Willie Snead over there, and
Right.
I don't know how many times I've opened up posts to see you writing about Willie Snead running down the middle of a cover 3, right?
Right. Yeah, they have. It's not just Waller. It's all those guys. They had 6 different receivers have a reception of at least 20-plus yards last week, and so all those guys get after it. And Renfrow, to me, is one of the more advanced route runners in football. The nuance and the routes he runs are like a basketball player one-on-one. I mean, he has some crazy moves and stuff that no one else does. Literally, no one else does in the league. And you got 2 speedy guys in Ruggs and Edwards. Those guys came on strong late in that game to win that one, and there are weapons galore. So it's not just Waller for sure. We'll see probably Trey Norwood, I'm guessing, a good deal on Renfrow, and that's going to be a tough matchup for him. So let's see if they go after a rookie 7th-round pick of Norwood with a guy like Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, I thought Edwards had a good game, made some key catches, obviously, at some times against the Ravens. But I remember watching his tape and all and thinking, man, I wasn't overly impressed about Edwards as a guy that could kill you on a game-to-game basis. Now, Ruggs obviously is a different story. Ruggs can home run you in a heartbeat, and you really have to be cognizant on the outside with him or up the middle of those seams. And look, they're going to try to. We saw if teams see holes in film like the Steelers, they got away with like three plays. I think 1 or 2 of them were drops the Bills had, and then the other one was Allen overshooting Emmanuel Sanders deep. When teams see that stuff, they're going to try to attack it again. So sure. you got to shore that kind of stuff up. One thing that I think the Steelers defense probably doesn't get enough praise for last week was the tackle after the catch, right?
For the Steelers defense?
Yes.
Yeah, they only missed – how many tackles they missed? I think Josh had them down for 5, but some of those might have been on special teams. So, yeah, they did a good job of that.
So, I mean, look, you're going to give up receptions in this game. West Coast offense, the levels concept. Gruden's good at scheming that kind of stuff up and some easier throws. It's just how do you do after the catch? You just can't let Waller go catch 1-7 and end up 40 yards down the field, right. Those kind of things there. Let him have his 7, 8, 9, 10 catches, keep him under 100 yards, keep him out of the end zone. That's key there. And, really same for the slot guy in Renfrow as well. And then when it comes to a guy like Ruggs, I'm more worried about Ruggs deep down the field. And hit you that way there. So gonna be interesting to see how they kind of roll these guys around once again. But the Steelers do have probably the best pass rushing trio and front 7 in the NFL entering week 2, and that's something that the Raiders have to be concerned about.
Yeah, I was going to make that point in a moment, but my last thought on the coverage aspect, if you're bracketing Waller, that means you're playing single high in all likelihood, and that opens up one-on-one opportunities on the outside for those speedy guys and Ruggs and Edwards to potentially win. So that's going to be the trade-off there in the battle for those corners because they're going to probably be on islands. I'm not going to see a lot of too high in this game. But, yeah, I think the Raiders definitely struggled with the Ravens' blitzes last week with the twists and gains and stunts that Baltimore and Wink Martindale ran. So I think you're going to see – not that you really can't see a less aggressive Steelers defense compared to last week, but you're going to see a more aggressive defense this week, more blitzes, bringing more people. It won't be as four-man rush, quote-unquote, vanilla as it was in week one.
Right. And the good thing is you didn't have to put any of them blitzes down on tape. Not that they're hard not that they're hard to decipher, right? But there is some minor aspect to what the Steelers did in week one that's not there to look at. So they're not going to. You're right. They're not going to have just one or two blitzes in this game. I think really where you could use a guy like Mike Hilton in this game is blitzing him off the corner.
Right.
So maybe we'll get a look at a guy like Millette or Norwood and their ability to time these things, because I think that's an area where you could maybe get some real cheap pressure on a guy like David Carr with these tackles and guards. And I would run a ton of stunts on this thing early, twist as well too, because I want to see how guys like Leatherwood and Leatherwood's already not going to sleep well Saturday night. And probably not that whoever they choose to play. How do you pronounce his last name?
I think it's Jermaine Illuminor.
Right, Illuminor. I mean,
yeah,
that's not going to be a healthy sleep for those two guys over there Saturday night. And when you have technicians and guys that are good at running stunts and twists over on that side in Alualu's going to should be crashing the hell out of those guys, right? I mean, to help open the inside twist to a guy like Watt. And then, I mean, you want Josh Jacobs or whoever's in the backfield to have to think a lot about, oh Lord, who's coming? Is it going to be Bush? Is it going to be Watt on the twist and all like that? So, we talked a lot about how is the Steelers defense going to defend Waller in that passing attack. Maybe the bigger question is how is that Raiders front going to defend against the Steelers rush attack?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I agree. I think you're going to be stunt heavy, blitz heavy. They're going to be, the crowd's going to be crazy. They're going to be coming to Heinz Field, and they're going to have to deal with a silent count and crowd noise and communication issues and things like that. So the more you can stress that interior offensive line, Carl Dunbar always says just the fish of the week, the weakest link you want to attack. I think it's probably going to be right guard Jermaine Illuminor, and so go after those guys and force the Raiders young and kind of new offensive linemen, especially along that interior, to see how well they communicate, because they did not do a good job of that last week and they were at home. So that is week one, and they're going to grow and get better and things like that. But certainly want to stress, and I think you're going to see a much more aggressive attacking Steelers pass rush. And
then something you can't defend them all. So, you have to pick and Keith Butler, to his credit, does a good job of getting forcing certain one-on-one matchups. So back to Cam Hayward. On who is it? John Simpson, probably.
Yeah, I was wondering who's going to be the left guard, because assuming Incognito doesn't play, is it going to be Simpson? I guess he started there last week, so I suppose he would again.
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy mismatch there.
Did you like Simpson coming out? I liked him.
I did, but
he never. Big guy.
He never lived up to it. I did like him coming out.
Yeah, I did too. But yeah, I think you go after both of those guards, and even James' center's been pretty unproven. So if you get head up on him and force him to play with a little more urgency, I think that'll help.
And let me tell you, Melvin Ingram knows about Colton Miller. So, I mean, that guy's a monster.
He has such a man crush on Melvin Ingram.
Man, that guy is incredible. And I think it's a great wherever Ingram lines up in this game, and you hit him. You set him up with you send a guy like Highsmith out there, and you set him up with those speed rushes on the outside, and you bring Ingram in and work on that get him on that spin on the inside. Colton Miller's not infallible.
No, he's a lot better than he was coming out. He was that first year or two, he was really bad, but he has improved. So I think he's their best offensive lineman, but certainly, I mean, you can win against him.
What'd you think about how I'm drawing a blank. The Steelers knew Joe played inside there in that game against
Jobert?
Yeah.
I thought he played well. I thought both guys played well. There was the communication overall across the board I thought was pretty strong. I mean, there were a couple of minor things with trying to get guys on and off the field, but that's not even a Jobert communication thing necessarily. More of a coaching, rotational, speed of the game type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't spectacular, but he was solid. He was in position. No big mistakes. Communication was good, so I was happy.
All right, who technically has the tougher matchup here? The Raiders offense versus the Steelers defense, or the Steelers defense against the Raiders offense?
I would say the Raiders offense against the Steelers defense is a tougher matchup for Las Vegas, just because of how well that Steelers defense played against a top team in Buffalo last week. I
would too. Now look, they're going to run. They run all the various type zones. They would be smart to try to come out and try to establish the run, I think. And run some outside zone and maybe try to get the Steelers kind of stretched out a little bit, I think. In there, I don't think you really just want to run right into the heart of that with a ton of inside zone, but I mean that's what they do, and I would think with those two guards in there and not wanting to have Derek Carr drop back 50 times in this. How many times did he drop back against the Ravens there? It was
it's probably about
56 times attempts. Wow. 56 attempts, and he was sacked 3 times in there. Did he? I don't know if he. So that's 59 right there. I don't think if you're the Raiders, you want Derek Carr dropping back that much if you can help it.
Yeah, but I wonder how effective the run game's going to be with a banged up offensive line, a banged up running back, and a really good front seven you're attacking. So you don't want to run into a brick wall if you're John Gruden either. So I assume Jacobs will play, but he's not going to be 100%. He was used primarily, I shouldn't say primarily, but more often inside the red zone. 40% of his carries in week 1 came inside the 20. So I think you'll see more Kenyon Drake between the 20s, and Jacobs is kind of the hammer to finish things. He had 2 rushing scores last week. So yeah, their run zone. They run some 2 backs. They have a fullback in there, Alec Ingold, who gets involved in the pass game as well. They run some G leads, some front side pulls with the guard. But I think, honestly, they're going to throw a lot in this game because they probably know the run game's not going to be too strong in this one.
Were you surprised at how much they used Ingold at fullback in that game?
No, it's Gruden. He's an old school fullback, spider, 2 wide banana, whatever it is, kind of deal. So, I mean, but he's more than a blocker. He had 4 catches last week. So, I mean, he'll be a check down, roll out, because they run some of those boots and stuff like that Gruden likes to run. So they'll get him involved that way. So, yeah, 23 snaps for Ingold last week, 4th most of any fullback in football. They were behind in that game quite a bit. So, yeah, you're going to see more fullback here than you did against the Bills, where you saw no fullback.
Yeah, why don't they just trade Foster Moreau to the Steelers then?
You've been saying that for a while. Did he play?
He played, but not much. I don't think he dressed. You wouldn't have known it, I don't think.
It's hard to get snaps when you're behind Darren Waller.
Right.
Darren Waller had his stat line last week was 10 catches, 105 yards, and 1 touchdown. Only one Steeler tight end ever has had that kind of a stat line, ever. And Waller just does it on a regular basis. I mean, he's just a freak of nature.
Moreau actually played 46 of 86 snaps in that game. You wouldn't have known it.
Was he targeted? I'm guessing like 1, maybe 0.
I don't think he was.
Probably just like a big offensive lineman at this point, I guess.
I guess.
Probably better than their guards are rolling out there.
Probably is. Let's see, Foster Moreau. No targets in that game.
Yeah.
Your boy Willie Snead had one go off his coconut, I think. That
he played like 2 snaps and the one goes off his head.
Yeah, and Carr fired that in him for interception. I've always liked kind of Zay Jones. I just don't know if he's as disciplined as I mean, he obviously caught the game, the huge game-winning touchdown in there. But they've got some weapons they can rotate over there through wide receivers. So I don't know, maybe they go empty a bunch in this. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Steelers, to their credit, did well against empty and a lot of the 10 personnel they saw last week. So kudos to them. All right, Dave, let's flip over to the Raiders' defense. And that's probably the weaker part of the unit. But as Tomlin said, they're a technically sound team. They're a well-coached team with Gus Bradley. They got a really strong front led by Max Crosby, who kind of had a big national performance against Villanueva and the Ravens, 2 sacks last week. That defensive line in general is really impressive. Let me pull up a number here that I had on what their defensive line as a collective did against Baltimore because they were dominant, and I want to get the number right here, so I'm stalling to make sure I have the right information here for you guys. So the Raiders defensive line against Baltimore across the board had 23 tackles, 8 quarterback hits, 3 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So it wasn't just Crosby; it's that whole group. It's Nassib, it's Ngakoue, it's Hankins in the middle, the big guy, big one tech. So that defensive line was routinely winning against Baltimore.
Now, some will say, boy, you guys talk way too much about Crosby, but consider who he was going against there. I would say, man, you haven't watched enough Crosby tape. That guy was already an up-and-coming guy. And I mean, he really looks like he's taking that next step there. So yeah, we get it. It was Alejandro Villanueva a couple times. I think maybe they had a tight end, tried to put a tight end. That's foolish. But that guy Crosby's a real deal, and hats off to Ngakoue, who's kind of banged up. I don't think he's going to be 100% for this game. I think he dresses Farrell. I liked Farrell coming out. I don't think he's lived up to what he could be. He should obviously be back dressing this week as well too. But Crosby, wherever he lines up, and they won't obviously keep him, I don't think, side-specific there. So there's going to be some Chukwuma Okorafor versus Crosby. There's going to be some Dan Moore Jr. versus Crosby. You might want to have a little bit of help there.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They will move these guys around. They're not static, but most of the time, Crosby should be the lefty end lined up against Okorafor. And so that'll be the just in the way Rousseau versus Okorafor was a matchup to watch last week. Crosby versus Okorafor is going to be the one to circle.
I think there should be some chipping going on with Najee and or Pat Freiermuth. Quite a bit on Crosby. You just can't let him tee off on a guy on a guy like Okorafor in this game here for sure. Now, I think this sets up really good for the Steelers to finally this is why you retooled your offensive line. This is why you drafted a running back in the first round here. I think for games like this is a Raiders defense that I think, and even though the run percentage rate the Ravens had wasn't great, I don't think overall on a stat-by-stat basis. There are some built-in excuses there. A couple of running backs off the street for one. The offensive line run blocking not great at all. Talking about the Ravens there. They're not as a physical of an offensive line, talking about the Ravens as what the Steelers are. This really sets up well, in my opinion, for the Steelers to come out and try to establish the run and actually have success in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'll be a lot easier time. I hope at least it'll be an easier time this week than last week. Yeah, the Raiders missed 10 tackles last week. That was most of any team in week one, and most of it came in the run game. You think about Tyson Williams, his big 35-yard touchdown to start things off. There were multiple missed tackles on that play. So I think it's a fast flow defense. They're a little over-aggressive with their linebackers trying to read keys and read pullers. So I think some of the window dressing that Canada certainly is capable of doing might come in handy in this one to get to move those guys out of position. So I think you're going to see some more motion and window dressing to try to get the Raiders front seven out of position.
Absolutely. And you want to slow down Crosby a little bit, run at him.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So
he's not as great of a run defender as, say, a TJ Watt is for the Steelers. So the more he has to defend the run and think about defending the run, especially with motion guys and all like that half step that you can kind of slow him down even on pass plays, I think is huge there. And there were a few times, like I said, going through that tape against the Bills where they run outside zone 4 times for 0 yards on outside zone. But there were a couple times, or I think 2 times in there where I thought, man, at least on the TV tape, and not so much when you got into the all 22, where I thought, man, it looked like they should have cracked that, So I don't think you give up on it. So I think you maybe try to run some outside zone to Crosby's side there, and then I think you run some. I want him to have to worry about Kevin Dotson coming that way a time or two from left to right.
I would just say when you pull and run your gap scheme, just make sure that backside gets blocked because Crosby and Ngakoue, they run to the football backside, and those guys chase the ball hard. So just make sure you're taking care of the backside, and the back's aware of that because those guys are going to squeeze the play pretty quickly.
I think Nassib's a fine player, but I think he's one of those byproduct players.
In the sense of like the players around him elevating.
Right. So I'm not so fearful about him in this game. I think their linebacking crew's okay. They had to make a lot of tackles in that game against Baltimore. A few of them, all tackles are not created equal. If you're having to tackle 7 yards down the field on a 1st and 10, that's not great, Bob. I mean, yeah, it's a tackle, but that, that's kind of where I want those guys going a whole different directions because of the motion here. This is a perfect game, I think, for Canada to come out and use a whole lot of different motions and bend under center and that kind of stuff. Once again, I don't think you want to get in a situation where Ben's having to drop back 40, 50 times a game here, and hopefully you get maybe a little bit better situation in this game where in the fourth quarter you can run more and say, here it is, we wore you down, and now you're not going to want to see this running game coming in the fourth quarter.
I will say, like Buffalo, the Raiders play a lot of guys in the box. Jonathan Abram, their former first-round pick, one of the hardest hitters I've ever seen come out of college. He plays as basically a quasi-linebacker, number 24. He's big, he's physical, he's aggressive, he's downhill fill in the alley, and so he'll have to be accounted for. So they probably will play a lot of 8-man boxes, and that could make the run game tough, but you still have to run the football regardless.
And I think when you look just at Gus Bradley's kind of defenses overall, going back to looking at some Chargers tape, this is more of a defense that tries to defend the middle of the field against the pass more than most, I would say, and really that kind of sets up into maybe some one high looks or some maybe some cover 2 types. Basically, there are going to be opportunities, I think, in this game where Ben points out that he's got the single high and tries to go to the receiver deep down the field. Those are classic Ben Roethlisberger setups. So
on the outside, you're talking about matchups on the outside,
right? On the outside there. So I think you're going to see some of those. You better be careful throwing the football to the middle of the field against this defense.
Yeah, I wouldn't. The Raiders, more than most teams, more than the Steelers, certainly have a very clear, defined defensive structure. A lot of 3-deep shells. Now, it's not always spot drop zone. I mean, they man match and carry stuff vertically, which you basically have to do in today's NFL, but it's almost exclusively single high type of stuff. And so throw in middle of the field, it's going to be tough to do, and I agree with you 100%, Dave, that you're going to want to attack the outside, attack Claypool one-on-one, attack Deontay left sideline, those kinds of things. That's probably how you're going to win in the pass game this week.
Thoughts on their secondary as a whole? We didn't get too deep into the weeds with Vinny the other day, but I mean, obviously Casey Hayward's a guy, but he's up there now, isn't he?
Yeah, I was looking more just schematically what they were doing, and I think it was Tom in the report that looked more at the individual guys. They draft Moorhead from TCU, I think in the second round this year, and I believe Vinny had said that he had struggled a bit, so maybe you go after a young guy like him a little bit. But that secondary, they tried to invest in it. They had some questionable draft picks. Arnett, I think, from Ohio State a year or two ago that didn't work out for him too terribly well. So it's an average secondary. It's not anything super special.
I think you can make especially with a guy like Morig in his youthfulness, Ben can that's the kind of kid that can get maneuvered with his eyes early in his NFL career, I'm willing to bet, and or that Ben Roethlisberger pump fake. I think you're going to, how Ben will try to set him up. Here's one thing I want to see those guys do on the outside as well, too, especially a guy like Casey Hayward. I want to see him tackle on the outside. Against a guy like on some quick screens to Juju or Deontay over on that side, and even James Washington. We saw a great play design. I think on the James Washington screen against the Bills. If you get the right numbers, look on the outside where it presents the blockers matching up with the numbers, and it leaves you a one-on-one kind of guy. I want to see Mullen tackle have to come up and make a tackle on the screen. I want to see Hayward come up and make a tackle on the screen there. And then, you do that a couple of times early. We've seen Ben and offensive coordinators with the Steelers do this over time. You do that, then you set up that kind of that fake screen, and then you hit the Abram or in this case probably Freiermuth down the seam, right? On a double hitch.
I think it's a great point. Force those guys to tackle that youthful secondary that you're talking about. So yeah, I think you go after and attack those corners because they're going to be one-on-one. I think quite a bit in this one.
All right. Overall, I think this sets up for a good game for the Steelers offense, against this defense on top of everything. And once again, they're not going to have Gerald McCoy. This is a banged up unit overall there. So I think you can kind of jump on these guys early here. And I really am excited to see if indeed, I think we could be looking at a Najee Harris rushing game of at least 80 yards. I wouldn't rule out maybe him having his first 100-yard game if he could pop one.
And hopefully his first touchdown. He has yet to score a touchdown in preseason or regular season. So hopefully this is the week for that to happen. So yeah, anything else you want to talk about with the Raiders, or do you want to move on? I think that's a good summary of the team.
All right, special teams. Just look, just don't turn the football over. Don't get a punt block. Don't get a kickoff busted 75 yards on you. Those kind of things there. Just stay. Don't turn the ball over and none of those field flipping plays on special teams.
Yeah, and Harvin's got to be a little more consistent to JV-ish punts in that game. But all right, Dave, I think that covers the game pretty well. I know we want to make our Week 2 picks here momentarily, but before we do that, let's talk about our friends over at MyBookie.
Absolutely. Let's talk about our friends at MyBookie. The NFL is back in action, and so is winning season at MyBookie with over $500,000 in contest prize money. Winning season makes the big game better and the victories even sweeter. Head to mybookie.ag and choose from a variety of boost, contest, and promotions up for grabs, highlighted by the crown jewel of the winning season, the famed MyBookie Super Contest. It only costs $10 to enter. You pick 5 games against the spread each week. Each win earns you a point, and each point gets you closer to the grand prize. So make sure you check that out today. If you missed out on week 1, don't even sweat it because entries are still open for the Super Contest, and all it takes is one solid week to get you back in the mix. Don't just take my word for it. Join now and start your winning season with MyBookie today. In order to get started, make your first deposit at mybookie.ag. Use promo code TERRIBLE. That's very easy to remember. TERRIBLE to instantly receive double your deposit. That's double your money to double your winnings with your first ever deposit using promo code TERRIBLE at sign up at mybookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. And if you love the show, you want to help us out, go visit mybookie.ag and make sure you sign up and give business to the people that help give business to us.
Absolutely. Who came out on top last night, Dave? I forget, me or you?
No, we both had Washington laying the points. I did a late flip-flop.
Oh, you switched.
I did late flip-flop on you, and I shouldn't have. That's one of those instances where you probably shouldn't go against your gut there, and I did. But even so, I thought I still might had a shot at a backdoor cover there. But yeah, how many times have I said that living out here in Vegas? Here for sure. But all right, you and I both, and I did not have I forgot to look how you did, but I did not have a great week with our picks there. So I owe it to the listeners to make it up to them starting on Sunday because both of us are 1-0. The Carolina Panthers are at home against the New Orleans Winstons. Boy, what a first week he had. Carolina is plus 3.5 at home against New Orleans, Alex.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, part of me wants to say that, Winston's going to regress because it would be such a Jameis Winston thing to have a terrible game after just maybe the best game of his life. But the Saints look really good overall, so I'm going to go with New Orleans.
I'm going to go. I think New Orleans win this at 3.5. I like that half hook there. So I think New Orleans only wins by maybe a late field goal here. So give me the Carolina Panthers plus 3.5. Houston on the road against the Cleveland Browns. I think this might be the largest spread of the week here. Cleveland at home laying 13 against Houston.
Ooh. That is a big spread. I mean, credit to Houston getting the big win for David Culley in Week 1, but Jacksonville is a much easier team than Cleveland. I'll say this though: I think Houston does cover. Cleveland's going to win this game, but Houston that's too big of a spread for me to take the Browns in this one.
Give me Cleveland to cover it. I'll lay the 13. So you and I are different on the first two here. Cincinnati on the road against the Chicago Bears. Interesting game. Bengals looking to move to 2-0. When's the last time the Bengals have started this season 2-0? Bears -2 at home against the Bengals.
I'm going to go with the Bengals in this one. Man, that Bears team did not look good with Andy Dalton. They do not push the ball down the field. That run game is decent, but not good enough. Burrow looked good, and credit to the Bengals for getting a win against Minnesota that I'm guessing most people, myself included, did not see coming. So I'm going to go with the Bengals in this one.
I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go the Bears at home. I'll lay the 2. Buffalo Bills on the road against the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins beat the Patriots, I think, in Week 1 on a late fumble there. Miami at home. Plus 3.5.
2018, last time Bengals went 2-0 to start the season, so a little more recently than I thought. Anyway, I'm going to go Buffalo in this one. I'm still higher on the Bills. I know, obviously the Steelers beat them last week, but that's still going to be a really strong team. They're going to bounce back, no doubt in my mind about it. So give me Buffalo to win by double digits.
This is my stone cold lead pipe lock of the century of the week. Bills lay the 3.5 on the road against the Dolphins. Los Angeles Rams on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts +3. A lot of road or a lot of home underdogs this week. It seems like Colts +3.5 against the Rams. Boy, how did Matthew Stafford look?
Yeah, I was just going to say what a perfect fit Stafford and McVay is. Granted, the Bears certainly helped out the Rams a bit last week, and that game maybe was a bit closer at times than it should have been. I'm gonna go with the Rams in this one, but by a field goal, just because I feel like the Rams still have to work on getting it all together. And so I think the Colts will be competitive, but the Rams win this one.
Okay, so you want the Colts +3.5 then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the Colts +3.5. I think the Rams run them right out of the building. Give me the Rams -3.5. We're a lot different on a couple of these early. Actually,
season. Wait, the Colts have a bunch of injuries, don't they? Don't they have like half their team?
They're
missing?
pretty banged up, I think.
All right. I'm caving. I'm gonna switch into the Rams.
All right. Alex and I both have the Rams in -3.5. That might be the second best stone cold lead pipe lock of the century of the week. 49ers on the road against the Eagles, who surprised some people, I think, in Week 1. 49ers. Let's see. Eagles +3 at home against the 49ers.
Yeah, Eagles look good, granted, against the Falcons, but Jalen Hurts certainly played well, and the 49ers, that backfield, they lose Raheem Mostert. I feel bad for that guy. He just cannot stay healthy. So I'm going to go with Eagles in this one.
I will. So you got to go the Eagles +3?
Yes.
I will go to 49ers -3 on the road. Jaguars hosting the Denver Broncos. You'll be tuned in for this one, right? Jaguars +6 at home. Another home team underdog. This was a little bit bigger spread, +6.
Yeah, it's one of those games that I'm just going to see the final score. I'm not going to have any updates for it until then. I don't know. I mean, Jaguars +6, that's kind of heavy. I'm going to go Denver in this one.
I'm going to go Denver lay to 6 as well, too. I think they blow them out of the building here. Patriots 0-1 on the road against the Jets. Yet another home dog. Jets +6.
Give me the Pats in this one. Jets offensive line looked a wreck last week. Now they don't have Mekhi Becton, their left tackle. Patriots should have won that game had it not been for that Damian Harris fumble. So give me the Pats.
Yeah, Belichick's going to embarrass that kid, I think, this week here. I'm with you. Give me the Patriots lay to 6 on the road. Vikings on the road against the Arizona Cardinals, who look like they might be for real this year, especially that defense there. Cardinals at home laying 3.5 against the Vikings.
Yeah, Dave, I'm on that Cardinals bandwagon. That team has a ton of weapons. They got a good run game now with Chase Edmonds and James Conner, Chandler Jones, 5 sacks. That defense, in the secondary, still has some things to work on, but give me the Cardinals.
I'm with you. I'll ride with you. I'll lay the 3.5 at home. Atlanta Falcons on the road. Another big line here. Tampa Bay, though, favorite at home, 12.5 over Matt Ryan and the Falcons. 12.5. Wow.
That's a big line. I'm going with the Bucs, though, man. The Falcons put up 6 points against the Eagles. They got to take on the Bucs. I don't see it happening for Atlanta.
I'm with you. I'll lay that big number. Buccaneers minus 12.5 at home. Tennessee Titans on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks. Boy, I thought the Titans. I don't know. It's still early in the season here, but the Titans have might go to 0-2 here. Seahawks minus 6.5 at home against the Titans.
Seahawks are at home?
Yes.
Oh man, the Titans, they lose week 1. They got to go up to Seattle, play the 12th man. That's going to be tough. I'm gonna say the Titans bounce back though. I think Vrabel's running a tight enough ship that Seattle's going to win this one, but the Titans cover.
I think the Seahawks win. I'm with you. I think the Titans. I think the Titans cover this. Maybe a field goal game either way here. Dallas, boy, you want to talk about another team that can't stay out of their way right now. Dallas on the road against the Chargers. Chargers laying 3.5 at home.
That's a tough one. Yeah, no Leo Collins for Dallas. Wow, DeMarcus Lawrence breaks his foot. Practice. I mean, Dallas is just the most snake-bitten team in football. Except the Chargers are also one of the most snake-bitten teams in football over the years. So I don't know who to pick here. I'm going to lean the Chargers in this one.
I don't know which way I want to go here. I'll take the Chargers at home, lay the 3.5 there. That moves us to Sunday night. Kansas City Chiefs on the road against Baltimore. I smell a rat here somehow. The Ravens are only Chiefs on the road favored by 3.5. Baltimore plus 3.5 at home. Something stinks here.
I'm getting all the good Dave-isms this time. I'm getting the Stone Cold Lock. I'm getting the I smell a rat. I didn't hear those last week, so I'm glad they're back.
I got like 18 gold chains and my and a hairy chest exposed here.
Yeah. Well, wife beater,
T-shirt
kind of thing. Yeah, that is a weird line for sure. I mean, how do you not pick Kansas City in this one? Yeah, something's weird there, but I have to go KC.
I have to go KC as well too. Minus 3.5 on the road against Baltimore. Lions on the road against Green Bay Packers. Big line in this one too. Can the Packers bounce back emphatically? Packers laying 11.5 at home against the Lions.
Wow, that is a big line. I mean, I think the Packers bounce back, but that is a big, big line. I'm going to say the Lions cover this one.
I'll take. I'll stand strong with that Packers faith there. I'll take the Packers laying the 11.5 at home. That brings us all the way back to 1:00 on CBS on Sunday at Heinz Field. The Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. This one kind of jumped around a half-point swing a couple times, I think. Right now, the Steelers on mybookie.ag are favored by 6 at home against the Raiders.
Let me start with this. I think the Steelers win this game, so I'm going to start with that. But man, whenever this team plays the Raiders, things get a little sideways,
a little goofy, doesn't it?
And that often ended in a loss. So I think the Raiders have a good team, and they're going to be a well-coached team, and they're going to be prepared in this one. And that offense, I think, certainly can put up points. So I have the Steelers winning this one. It's close, 26-24 over the Raiders. I think it's going to be a close game.
Okay, 26-24. So you got just a 2-point game. So you would take the Raiders plus the 6 points here. I too think the Steelers are going to win this one. I too think it's going to be closer than the spread, though. I have this written down as being 24-20. Pittsburgh in this one. I think the Steelers kind of comfortable. I think the Raiders score late to make it this close, though. So maybe a different path than you. Okay. But I do see the Steelers winning. I do see the Steelers covering. I'm with you on something crazy going to happen in this game, probably. I mean, I'm not talking immaculate reception crazy, but even Derek Carr ran him down during his interview the other day. He said, "Remember the game a couple years ago? Wasn't that the one that the Steelers had the last kickoff that didn't Antonio Brown almost get down the sideline on one of these or throw the ball over his head or something like that. But there have been some kind of crazy games with these two teams, and I would expect something crazy to happen in this one. But once again,
I think about like the Boz slipping game. That was against the Raiders, wasn't it?
Was it?
Was that against the Raiders where Boswell, after that great play to the hook and ladder play, except Boswell? Or against the Raiders?
Yeah,
it was against the Raiders.
Okay.
2018.
And then we've also seen Terrell Pryor go 90-something yards on the Steelers and all as well too. So thank goodness Mariota's not playing in this game. That's a huge part of this game, I think, because the Steelers might have a little bit tough time defending that.
Yeah, I'm glad they don't have to worry about it. At least we don't think they don't have to worry about it. Yeah,
unless there's some shenanigans going on. So, all right, everybody should be happy that we picked the Steelers this week, Alex. So, any other thoughts on that on the game as we move forward?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you feel good about the Week 1 win, but you don't want to be overconfident either. And I'm sure the team won't be, but you just never know. Week to week, these things can change so much. So we'll see. I think they win, but I think it will be a competitive game.
All right, let's see if we have some emails in here from the one from Bryce, excited for Week 2, want to show love to Adrian and Clem and keep Butler for their work against Buffalo. Clem seemed to have his guys ready for the moment. They played to the personality they want to establish. We also haven't heard about any communication breakdowns on D. They did have like 12 guys on the field, though, didn't they? The Steelers and still couldn't defend.
Well, they were trying to run Tyson off, so he was like getting off the field, but yeah, they got to clean some of that stuff up.
Let's see. When you look at the wide receiver group for the Raiders, do you think the Steelers need to worry about their explosiveness and speed? It seems like that aspect of the game gave the Raiders some fits, and Renfro is a nice piece in the slot. Our corners are not the fastest guys, so that's the best way for our DB. So what is the best way for our DBs to combat that problem? Russian coverage going hand in hand. That's the best way to kind of defeat this, I think, overall. Because of how you're going to have to probably defend against Waller, you are going to be, as Alex and I think kind of hopefully made clear in the preview there are going to be instances where you have Ruggs and guys running deep, singled up on some corners there. So if you're not getting good pressure, you are going to set yourself up for instances, I think, for your corners to be ran away from. And that is one scary aspect of this game. You have to make guys like Ruggs, I think, and Edwards beat you. And if they do beat you, then that's probably how the Raiders are going to beat you.
Yeah, certainly. I think we talk about them wanting to take vertical shots. If the pressure gets home, that's going to be the best way to eliminate some of that stuff. And then also just playing, off coverage and just making sure those guys are getting their hips open early, not letting their cushion be eaten up. And I think Norwood's got to really work on that. That was a problem last week. So it'll be a challenge. But as you said, if you get home and don't let Carr have that kind of time, then that kind of takes away the deep ball.
I want to see Waller have like 8 receptions of like 5 yards each late in the game because of the Steelers just being able to lay back and tackle the catch and those kind of things. I think that's the most ideal situation. David Rickards writes in, happy Friday. Not sure if they released a decent all-22 from the Bills game yet, but I'm wondering if Witherspoon played any snaps. I know he was supposed to be a depth guy, but it's a long 60 minutes. It looks like Carl Joseph is still listed on the practice squad. I figured they would have elevated him by now. Dave, yeah, we talked about that too earlier in the show there. I'm not convinced Carl Joseph's going to get activated or elevated this week, to be honest with you. And as far as Witherspoon, yeah, he was inactive, David, on Sunday, and that's a good bet he's going to be inactive again on Sunday against the Raiders.
Yeah, so Witherspoon did not play any snaps because he did not dress. I mean, could you argue theoretically that you would want a Witherspoon to try to match up a guy like Darren Waller, a height, weight, speed, length kind of a guy? But I think it's kind of asking a lot from Witherspoon to play interior in his first action with Pittsburgh.
Michael, one thing we didn't bring up here that I meant to get to is, okay, let's say you don't have a guy like Eric Ebron for this game. All right, I don't think that's worth elevating a guy like Rader. We'll see. Maybe the Steelers feel otherwise. Someone would have to be inactive, though, still, if you did that. Could we see some tight end Joe Haig in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it to try to help that run game out. 6 offensive linemen, kind of a deal. I think, heck, I still might start Joe Haig at right tackle over Chooks just so I can run the ball a little bit better if I can't get results here soon. So, yeah, I mean, I have yet to see it this year, though. I haven't seen it in camp, haven't seen it in the preseason. Maybe they're doing it right now and we can't see it, but I've not seen them work that 6 offensive linemen in the game.
Non-injury related over-under snaps for Joe Haig on offense.
What's the over-under? Like 1-0? I mean,
if you gave me one, I'd take the over.
I think I'd take the under.
You would? Okay. Is that a good number? I guess the question is do we think Joe Haeg will play non-injury related offensive snaps in this game then? I guess is the better question.
To your point of taking the over, what is the evidence that they intend to do that?
Just the fact that maybe Eric Ebron might be inactive for this one.
Yeah, but I mean, they've yet to do it at all this year,
right?
That I'm aware of.
I mean, and still you would have the option of having Gentry, as part of 2 tight end sets and all like that. All right, so will he play an offensive snap? I will say yes. You will say no.
I will say no.
All right.
But I welcome the yes. I think it's a good idea.
All right. Is that your out?
Yes, that is my hedge. I got a hedge. That's what I'm best at.
They get on me, man. They ought to get on you more. They just love.
I'm more subtle. I'm a little more subtle about it. Yeah,
you're nicer too. You're just a nicer human being. You're like 14 times nicer of a human being than I am.
It's a total self-defense mechanism. I'm very small and scared, and if I'm nice to everyone, then they can't hurt me as much. Right. So that's kind of my philosophy.
Yeah, they'd love to hurt me. Michael Bednars writes in off-field related question here. It is very unusual to see Mike Tomlin partake in a media outlet such as the Pat McAfee Show. What did you guys think of the interview? Do you think seeing Tomlin in that light annoys local media outlets that maybe can't get an interview or get media-worthy information from his weekly press conferences? Yes, 100 times, 1,000 times, yes, Michael. We may or may not joke about all of that on the side in non-public transmitted conversations.
I know Pat's been trying to get Tomlin on the show for a while now, so they've been persistent at it. It appears, but I mean, Tomlin has the guys that he likes, and the Jake Glazers, the Stephen A. Smiths, and the Pat McAfees, but those guys are more entertaining and more fun. And I don't know. I mean, it was, like I said, it was just a really good conversation that the McAfee crew and Tomlin had for about 20 minutes, and just refreshing to see him in that environment.
I think McAfee's not far away from possibly being kind of the Howard Stern of sports talk.
Oh, I like that. That's a good comp. Yeah.
Does the cussing bother you at all?
No, I think it's refreshing. It's not button up. It's not that stuffy. It's not me, which is nice. It's just very raw and real, and how your buddies talk watching the game. So I think it's what attracts people to that show. Exactly.
It does not. If it offends you, then find somebody that can give you a bleeped out copy of it or whatnot. Because the content. Not only is the substance and the content good, but you're right. It's more like a couple guys sitting around a water cooler. I do think maybe they Dan Patrick's a button-up version maybe of McAfee, right?
I guess. They're two different feels. Like Patrick came up through the traditional broadcasting way, ESPN and all that. McAfee's doing this new media type stuff. So I don't know. It's two different styles, obviously.
Do you like the Dan Patrick Show?
I do. I don't listen to a lot of other stuff.
I don't either. I'll catch it late at night.
I like Rich Eisen. I listen to Rich Eisen a little bit. I think he does a really good job. So, I listen to some of that stuff. But, they're two different worlds and two different spaces they kind of function in right now.
Yeah, but short answer to Michael is, I think, we both think McAfee does a great job. And I think it bothers the living out of the local media. And that makes Alex and myself happy. Should I edit that out?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. We can't talk about how great it is for McAfee to be raw and real, then edit out a comment about it.
All right. Dan Devlin writes in. I think Dan's got a good question here. Great listening, gentlemen. Lots of football and lots of laughs. Hey, in college, they say the greatest line growth comes between game 1 and game 2. When do you believe the greatest growth occurs for professional offensive lines? I'm really looking forward to seeing this unit grow over time. Also, just curious, do you both pick college games based on teams or players or matchups? I'll play some college college games, I'm willing to bet Alex doesn't, Dan. So there's a quick and dirty one that way. Alex, I think, has mason jars buried in his yard with his cash or whatnot. You're pretty tight, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at it, but yeah.
I mean, my wife, you want to talk about, put a piece of coal up my wife, in 2 weeks you have a diamond, man. I mean, that's tight.
Happy anniversary. I'm the car.
I'm the opposite. You let me let it burn a hole in me. I'll let a dollar bill burn a hole right through me. I don't carry a lot of cash, period, either. So if any of you think about knocking me up over the head, you're not going to get anything off of me because I don't carry cash on me.
This answer's taking a turn.
Let's see. Also, just curious, do you both pick? Okay, we answered that. Do you note players who jump out in games you watch? Yeah, look, it's kind of subtle. It's not a long list, but there will be guys throughout a college football season that. How's that SpongeBob meme go? Write that down. Write that down. With the binoculars, that's the kind I am. I'll jot names down to kind of come back to on that. And I think you're kind of the same way, or at least a mental note of it, right?
Yeah, it's. I probably don't even do what you do. I just kind of watch the game a little more casually. But certainly, guys will pop up, and you follow some draft guys on Twitter and see their names a bit. In terms of the question about offensive line growth, yeah, I mean it's hard to say exactly when the biggest jump is, but I think it certainly tracks and is reasonable to say, that jump from week 1 to week 2. Okay, you've been through a game, you have more tape out there, you're learning and you're correcting some of those maybe bigger mistakes. And as you go along, hopefully it's more smaller, nuanced mistakes as you kind of get through a season. So I can't quantify that answer, but yeah, I think it's reasonable to say there should be a jump from your first game to your second.
Kind of extrapolating that out, what I thought of when I read this is where is kind of. Is it start 20? Is it when is it where you should know what you have or don't have maybe in an offensive lineman?
Yeah, I think just in general, once a player gets into his second season, even if he hasn't played a lot, hopefully he's played at least a little bit though, and you're just able to start comparing and contrasting. Do you see that jump, that second year jump that Tomlin talks about? And if you see it, then you probably have something. If you don't, then either you're going to have to wait a really long time for it to come around, and that probably is too long to wait in the NFL, or it's never going to come. So I think once you get into that second year, you kind of see where the growth is and you evaluate from there. Yeah,
I would agree. Let's see. Good question, Dan. Appreciate that one. I think Dan, I don't think I've seen Dan's name in the email machine before. So props that. And another one I don't think I've seen either. Josh Rubin, the last trio this good. This stems off the conversation we had about the last, when's the last time the Steelers had an edge rush trio maybe as good as they have right now, which I'm excited to. Boy, if they take that next step this week, Alex, if this trio, I mean, if there's a lot of hat wearing going on this week, boy, we're going to really have a lot to talk about here. But Josh writes in, a great question Dave had about this being the best trio of outside linebackers the Steelers have ever had. I think the answer is yes, despite the challenge in 1995 by Greg Lloyd, Kevin Green, and Jason Gilden. While this trio or duo of Lloyd and Green carried the team to the Super Bowl, the rookie Gilden was a late bloomer, and in 95 he was considered marginal. History will see these three together on the depth chart, and heads will be scratching. And this is because Gilden led the team in career sacks, but Lloyd and Green, as ferocious as they were, could not themselves justify alone as the greatest trio. Obviously, way too early to give Watt Highsmith the duo award over the 95 pair. Don't forget, too, you had a Woodley-Harrison pair in there that wasn't half bad. The duo award over the 95 pair, but through week 1, they are above par. And to be more feared than Lloyd and Green is almost like saying more nifty than Barry Sanders. Those guys were life-threatening in a different era. Am I missing any other trio? Josh, I think you've done great research on this, brother. Hard to argue with anything. At least I have to go back and watch 95 Jason Gilden. Was he that slow out to shoot, Alex?
Yeah, he's pulled up his numbers. Drafted in 94 at 2 sacks, 3 sacks in 95 as the backup there.
I wonder what the snap count breakdown was way back then.
I do not know.
But Josh, I mean, you're not going to get. I don't think Josh is going to get an argument out of what he wrote, right?
Yeah, I like his phrase. It was a very good email. Thank you for that. The above par. I think they're in a really good place for a week 1 performance.
He says, I hope we get to consider them not just on Steelers, but all teams ever. And trio comes to mind in all teams that set the all NFL standard. There are so many 3-4 defenses that went to Super Bowls, so probably not too hard to find top 3 that is in our prerequisite. Thanks, and here we go. Josh, research that deeper, brother. And not only Steelers but across the NFL there. And I would try to limit it maybe to 20-25 year span, I guess. 20-year span.
Yeah, I guess. What's the guy's name?
Josh Rubin.
Josh.
Yeah.
Write an article on that, Josh. Feels like you're a good writer. Send us an article on that. That'd be a good thing to look into.
Well, maybe we'll put it on the depot or whatnot. Yeah, send it along. But, great to think back. And, look, keep your fingers crossed and see that we're talking about this trio having a hell of a game on Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders at Heinz Field. That's a great place, a great stopping point, great email to stop on, I think, Alex.
Absolutely. All right, Dave. So we'll be back on Monday with the Terrible Podcast, hopefully talking about a 2-0 Steelers team. But however this thing shakes out this weekend, we will be covering it.
We will get the jinx category for sure. If this time we both picked against the Bills in week 1, the Steelers won. We both picked for the Steelers in week 2, and God forbid if they lose. It erases everything that happened in week 1. All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of Steelers Depot. That helps us. That helps everybody. That's a real popular version as well too. Make sure you go to mybookie.ag and support them too as well if you like betting a couple of shekels on the games, as they like to say. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.